How smart are our snakes? Are we underestimating their intelligence? Looks like we might be. Today's episode, I'm joined by Bob Bledsoe of Green Room Pythons, and we talk all about snake intelligence, free roaming snakes, target training snakes, and let me tell you, I learned a lot, and I think you will too. But before we get into this episode, allow me to thank Exoterra for sponsoring this podcast and making this episode possible. Exoterra makes quality products for our pet reptiles to make them feel at home. One more thing before we dive into this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the other streaming platforms, please give us a follow. It really helps the podcast out a lot. Okay, without further ado, how smart are our snakes? Let's find out. Everybody, please help me welcome Bob Bledsoe of Green Room Pythons. Bob, hello.
Hey, Fadi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm very excited to finally talk with you. You're doing some really cool stuff in the Green Room Pythons. But before we get into all that cool stuff, how did you get into reptile keeping?
Just probably the same boring story that you hear from everybody that I had reptiles as a kid, and I've always just had them, and I've always been fascinated by them. So I kept a lot of lizards when I was younger, a couple of snakes, but then as I got into adulthood, I had like a chameleon and some bearded dragons and stuff like that. And there was a time I was traveling a lot. I still do travel a lot, but there was a time as an adult, probably 8 or 10 years, that I didn't have anything because I traveled so much. And then I realized, well, I could have a snake because snakes don't eat very often. So, and I'm not gone for weeks on end, So that started me with snakes. I got a ball python because I knew something about ball pythons. Like I already had a base of knowledge, and I did a bunch of research and sort of refreshed my knowledge on them and got this all started.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's actually funny. I recently started doing a lot of traveling for work, and I've been downsizing the lizards I have for that reason. Is I don't go for very long either, so I could leave a snake in here for a week or just over a
Right.
week, whereas lizards need to be fed like 3-4 times a week. So I absolutely get that.
Yeah.
And then I just out of curiosity, where did the name Green Room Pythons come from?
Well, green room, because I spent a lot of time in green rooms in like comedy clubs and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I like a green room. A green room is usually a relaxing place where people can just take some deep breaths and relax and have a nice chat. So I like the feel of a green room, but also I really enjoy plants, and I have a lot of plants. And so the greenery of plants made it work as well.
That's awesome. I was wondering. I didn't know that you were you did comedy as well, and I was wondering if there was that connection, Green Room to that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've recently started using AI to do a little bit of research, and so I asked ChatGPT to tell me a little bit about you. And one of the things it mentioned is that you do fire juggling as well. Is this true?
It is true. I'm not. I never call myself a juggler, but I perform at festivals. I wrote a show specifically for Renaissance festivals, pirate festivals, stuff like that. It's a comedy show, but I quickly realized after my first season of doing this show at these festivals that I needed something visual, because you're playing for children and drunk adults in the middle of the day at these festivals, and you got to have something visual. So I know how to juggle. I'm pretty good at flipping things in the air, like 3 things, but I'm not great at it. I don't do tricks or anything. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do it at a festival on a quote professional level, I can do just the 3 things, but they better be freaking dangerous things. So I've got like double-headed battle axes that I set on fire, and I have chainsaw blades that I set on fire and stuff like that. So really dangerous stuff, but it's still only 3 things that I'm flipping. And that way I don't have to ever practice. I don't have to get any better than what I already am. And it works.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, juggling fire sounds scary enough, but you're juggling axes and chainsaws that are on fire. That sounds, yeah, insane, insane. So
Yeah,
okay, last question about the comedy, and then we'll get into what we're really here for. If you
sure.
were to ever release a special, would you talk about the snakes in it?
I probably would. I
Yeah.
probably would. I've never written any material about the snakes really, um, because really the comedy that any comedy that I write now goes into that show that I was just talking about,
Right.
and it's like a character piece and it's Renaissance Festival stuff, so it's weird. But if I was going to do a regular straight comedy show again, which I haven't for a long time. But if I was like touring comedy clubs, I'd probably put the snakes in there somehow. But you got to make your like stand up needs to be relatable to people. If you're doing
Right.
regular stand up, it should be relatable. And keeping a whole bunch of snakes in your house isn't super relatable. So you'd have to find the angle to make it work for an audience that's not going to relate to the fact that I have a ton of snakes in my house.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. That's super cool, man. Yeah, very very cool. All right, cool. I was just curious because I do enjoy watching a lot of stand up as well. And when I found out that you did stand up, I was just curious to see kind of where how the reptile world would fit in there.
Yeah, yeah,
But okay, so on to the reptiles. I think one of the things you're probably most known for that like kind of caught my attention immediately was the free roaming of the snakes. And so I kind of want to just dive right into that if you don't mind.
sure, yeah.
Is was there something that you had to do to set up to you know how they baby proof a room? Do you have to like
Mhm.
snake proof a room? And what kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah, how was that process like, or figuring
Yeah,
out
yeah,
those
for sure.
details? Yeah.
I've got several videos on my channel about how to do this, and because I realized real quickly that I was making, especially when I do a short and just throw it up on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and it's just a short, I'm showing all these snakes free roaming, and it might be a week's worth of different snakes out, but it seems like I have them all out at once,
Right.
and the danger is that people watch that and go, oh, I'm going to do that with my snake, and they just start letting their snakes roam in a dangerous area. So to answer your question, um, snake proofing the room is all about going around, first of all, making sure there's no holes in the walls, right?
Yeah.
Like making sure
Yeah.
that the baseboard, even under your cupboards, where you can't really see, there's no holes or anything. And then it's about making sure that all your cupboard doors can close properly, so your snake can't go in there if you don't want them to go in there. Um, and then things like, I don't mind if my snakes knock over certain things that I have on tables or whatever, but anything I don't want them to knock over, like these potted plants, I have stuck down with museum putty. So everything
Okay.
that is important to stay not on the ground, to stay up high,
Yeah.
is stuck with museum putty, because snakes are like cats and they'll push stuff off. So I just have to have my room set up so that if I lose sight of a snake, if I don't know where a snake is for a while, it doesn't matter, because I know that they're going to be safe. They're not going to get out. They're not going to go anywhere that isn't snake proofed. And then one thing that I do is I moved to this new place. It's probably been almost a year that I've been in this new place. And when I snake proofed this room, I used my black-headed python Maya, who you can see in her cage back there.
Yeah.
She's a great test because she never stops moving. Whereas the ball
Cool.
pythons just want to come out and curl up somewhere, right? So Maya will spend an hour and she'll go around every inch of that place. And if there's a hole or anything that I missed or any problem that I didn't think of, she's going to find it. So I
She'll
just
find it.
follow her around for a few days. I'll let her do a session each day for an hour or so and just see what she finds. Works really well.
That's awesome. Okay, so you kind of touched on it there, but so you're not letting all of them out at the same time.
Right.
They're
I
out
have
individually.
not individually. Many of them. Sometimes I have 5 out, but
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it's certain ones. So I have rules, and the general rule is that number one, they have to be big enough. I'm not letting babies out.
Right.
I have a playpen that I'll put babies in with like a dog playpen with a bunch of enrichment items. But for the adult snakes, I don't mix species, which you probably can. It's probably not that big of a deal, but I just have decided that I don't want to. So I don't have my reticulated pythons. Like I have one, I don't know if you can see, but I have one reticulated python out. She's on top of this thing right now.
She's
Can you
out right
see?
now.
Yeah, her body. I don't know if you can
I
see
can
it.
might be able to.
the back of her tail is right here. I'm touching the back of her tail.
Okay, yeah.
And then she's kind of wrapped around behind that hide. I've got snake hides up there. Anyway, the point is that I don't want my reticulated pythons and my ball pythons meeting, stuff like that. Not because they would fight, but I just figure they would never meet in the wild anyway. Right. So that's one rule that's not super important. But the one that is important is any sexually mature male free roams by themselves. So those are the ones who do free roam by themselves. I had one male that wanted to come out early this morning, so I let him free roam for 45 minutes or so, and then I put him back. My female ball pythons can be out together. I can have all of them out together, and they do just fine. But the males, I don't want them with females because I don't want breeding behavior happening, and I don't want adult males meeting because they'll combat. They'll see each other as threats. So,
right.
The females do just fine. I find that they will often follow each other around. They'll oftentimes pile up in the same area, and it's not because that area is warm. It's never warmer in any one spot, but some of them feel comfortable around each other, and I think that probably happens a bit in the wild, but it's been yet to be studied, so we don't know for sure.
Yeah, fascinating. And obviously, this is something you're doing for that. Like, I'm sure you get some enjoyment out of it, but this is something you're doing for them, like giving them the option to spread out a little bit more than they can in their tanks and explore. And do you think it's important that more keepers start doing something like this?
I think what I think is important is that keepers start to do what they can to give their animals physical and mental enrichment. And I always say that I don't expect other people to free roam their snakes like I do. Not everybody is set up to do that. The nice thing is that with my job, when I'm home, I still do travel a lot, but I'm home most of the time. And when I'm home during the days, I'm here, so I can let them free roam. And right. So my two reticulated pythons, I've got Echo up there, and then I have Stella on the other side of the room over here, just sitting there. They'll sit there all day, and it just gives them a place to be. So with the retics, they are super mobile animals, and they live in. Echo lives in this cage up here, or no, Stella does, and then Echo lives down here in this cage, which is an okay sized cage for them. But when they come out, they're cruising everywhere. They're up and down and all over the place, and they just can't do that in a cage. For the ball pythons, most of my ball pythons are in tubs, and some of them are totally happy sitting in a hide all day in their tub, no problem. But many of them want to come out and roam around. And just because they know they can. I think if they were only raised in tubs and I never allowed them to do that, they would probably just sit in a hide, and that would be their thing. But I want them to know that it's safe in this room. They've all mapped out the room. They know it really well. And they know where their favorite spots are. So when I wake up early in the morning, that's when my ball pythons are awake, right? I look in all the tubs, and whoever's up front, I open it, and I don't take them out. I give them the option. So I open it, and if they want to come out, they can come out, and it's usually the females, sometimes the males. So
interesting. Do you see different personalities and behaviors between the snakes?
For sure.
Based on okay, very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, definitely between the different species, but also within the same species, every snake has a completely different personality. And I think a lot of keepers, especially a lot of breeders that are. Maybe they're big breeders and they have all their snakes in tubs, and they really only see their snake when they pull open the tub to spot clean or to feed them. They're not noticing behavior because they can't see it. They don't know what their snakes get up to. But when even though I do have my ball pythons in tubs, and I can see all my other snakes in their cages, what they're doing, and I can't see the ball pythons in the tub, but they come out enough that I can get to know what their personality is and what they're like, and kind of what their whole situation is. It's really fun.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. I don't have the ability. I don't think I have the ability to. I will need to really go look at what my reptile room looks like and see if I'm able to. But I have a staircase that goes because the reptile room's in the basement, and it goes up to the main floor. And I will sometimes let the carpet pythons curl up on the staircase, but I have to be there watching it, so they don't get to do it as very often, because I'm just too scared they find one of those holes you were talking about. You're letting them out for extended periods of time.
Some of them.
So okay, like yeah, like the retics, for example, is
Mhm.
heating and humidity ever a concern?
No, not really. They're not. I don't have any species that's fragile enough where being out for an afternoon would be an issue. And I keep the room in here fairly warm. It's in the mid to high 70s in here, so it's not like I have a 65-degree home. You know,
Right.
uh, so the room is fairly warm, but it's not between 80 and 88, which is what their cage is. Uh, and the humidity is right now. My humidity is 44%, which is pretty low, but they're going to go back in their cage and they'll spend the night in their cage
Right.
at 70% humidity, whatever. So I don't have a problem with sheds, and I don't let them out when they're digesting. So if they're actively digesting food and need the heat, I don't let them out. But the other thing is, for instance, where Echo is sitting right now, she's getting some heat because Maya has a radiant heat panel. So that spot, she's kind of laid all the way across the top. She's behind those hides, but that whole spot that she's laying across is warm. And if they went up here on top of this cage, that's a hot spot. So they do
Yeah.
have some spots if they want it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And actually, so that brings up two questions. I wanna comment on something that I saw you post recently about the digestion. But before that, uh, so one of your retakes is on top of Maya, I believe your black-headed python or Woma python. You said
Yes. Yeah, my
awesome,
blackhead. Yeah, Maya's my black-headed python. Yeah.
cool. So do they ever like? Will Maya see the retake on top of her tank and react? Like, is there any reactions like that at all?
No, they do. They do notice each other, but so like sometimes the retics will try to climb up the front of those cages, and there might be like my boa who's on this bottom cage might see the retic moving, but he doesn't seem to. And Maya sees them all the time moving. They react to the movement, like they'll check out the movement a little bit, but they don't seem to be interested beyond what was that moved
What
right
was
in
that?
front of my cage. You know.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And then so jumping back to the reel you posted, could you talk a little bit about snakes and digesting and heat? Because that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that was very fascinating reel that I always had the assumption of like, okay, if my power is out, I can't feed the snakes, for example, because there's no heat or whatever. But I guess you busted that myth or recently. So if you could talk about that for a second, that'd be
Well,
yeah.
sort of busted the myth. I will say that if your heat's out, if your power's out, don't feed your animals
Right.
because in general they do. You know, you want them to have access to heat, but oh, there we go. My lighting is good here. The camera for some reason went dark.
No,
Um,
it's all good.
so so what I posted about is the fact that snakes are cold blooded animals, and but pythons and boas and probably other species, but I can't speak for every species, um, do have I think it's called a thermogenic reaction when they eat and when they're digesting. So they are producing a little bit of heat internally, especially the front of their digestion. So and you can test this. You can feed your snake, and then a couple hours later, or the next day, or whatever, heat gun what they're sitting on, and then heat gun their belly where the animal is. I also have a reel that I posted a couple years ago that basically made the same point, where I did the heat gun test, and I showed that my snake was a couple degrees warmer than what she was sitting on. So it's really interesting. So the point is that most of the time, my pythons, my snakes, when I feed them, will curl up on their cool side. You know, I'd say probably 75% of the time they'll curl up on the cool side for the first day or so, because their body is producing enough heat. They don't feel like they need that extra heat. And then usually on day 2 or day 3, they'll head over to the warm side and let the additional heat help out their digestion.
Fascinating. I've it's the same thing with I don't know if the right word, gravid or pregnant boas, and most snakes, I believe, once they're kind of trying to warm the eggs on the inside or the babies on the inside, I think they'll do like these mini vibrations to kind of warm up their entire body. Because I've temp gunned a pregnant boa, and the temperature was higher than the heat that it was sitting on as well.
Yeah, they can produce their own. They can produce a little bit of heat in certain situations. They're still cold blooded. They still need to be in a spot to really warm their body or cool their body down. They've got to move to that area. But for things like that, for with eggs and with digestion, they can produce a little bit of heat that helps that out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Okay, so jumping back to the free roaming because I'm so fascinated by this topic. Do you? I assume I've seen like you almost like the cat shelves they'll put on the walls or stuff like that. I've seen you've done stuff like that. Is that like? Do you have specific things that you use? Are they cat products? Or are you building them yourself, or where are you getting these
Yeah.
stuff?
So I just did a video because I get this question all the time. So I just put a video out a few months ago.
Link in the description.
Everything I used on my snake wall. I have an 18-foot wall that I dedicated to these snakes. And so usually the two retics that are out in this room right now are usually in the snake wall room. And that is what that is basically there's this sort of decorative piping. It looks like industrial piping, but you put it up and the intention is that you would hang coat hangers on it or something if you put that on the wall. So this long piping, and I started with that. Oh no, it's not. It's not for clothes. It's for plants. It's a plant hanger. So you got this long pipe that sets out about 6 or 8 inches from the wall,
So you can hang
and you can hang plants along it. And so I put that up first with hanging some plants, and then it eventually evolved to where I put some more pipes that stick out of the wall. You just drill them into the wall and they stick out 6 or 8 inches. More plant hangers, but also great for snakes to get their body on. And then I just got some wood from the hardware store, and eventually made those piping things shelves. I still hang plants on them, but they're also shelves that the snakes can just lay across if they want. And then I have some shelves in the corner that are like corner shelves that stack up, so they've got different heights if they want to curl up on one of those, and they can sit in the plants if they want. I got a ton of plants on there. So yeah, it's really cool. And I'll tell you, the retics like the wall. There's also a ladder that I've had since the old green room. I have this ladder that's adorned with all kinds of stuff that they can climb up and down. The retics like being on the wall, and they usually start on the wall, but they come down and go across the room, and they have their favorite spots, which, just like a cat, rather than spending time on the expensive, really cool thing that I spent all this time on.
Yes.
Stella always goes in this shoebox. It's a shoebox for boots, so it's big, and I cut a hole in it. That's Stella's hide, and she always goes across the room and sits in that. And Echo always goes into my laundry basket and just wants to be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So even when they're outside, they have their favorite spots to sit in.
Yeah, they have their favorite spots, but they do, they'll sleep for like an hour or so in their favorite spot, and then they'll come back out and roam around a little bit more, and then go back to their favorite spot, take another nap. They're just up and awake and moving during the day more than a ball python, for example.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I really like the idea of the snake wall. That's fascinating. I've seen the smaller versions of them where people put like a wooden plank and just put some pipes on them, and the snake will go up and go back down.
Yeah.
But having an entire wall for it sounds awesome. Do you have any ideas of how, say, you weren't able to do the wall and you weren't able to free roam them? How else would you give your snakes some enrichment?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can do. One of the really great things that you can do if you're not free roaming snakes and stuff like that is to just make sure that you're changing up their enclosure enough, because pythons are very smart, and boas as well, very smart, and they notice anything new in their cage. And so giving them something new, pulling out the fake plants or whatever you have in there and replacing it with something else is going to be very interesting to them for a while. For example, Maya, my black-headed python, about an hour before this, she was wanting to come out, and I can't have her out because I got my retics out right now. So what I did, these are all bioactive cages, by the way, that are fairly new. Maya has destroyed all of her plants. She only has one live plant in there now. She's made it a barren wasteland in there. So what I did is Yeah, as they do, as they do. She's a digger. So we're gonna replace that. I'm gonna try to fix it, but who knows how it'll go. But what I did is, you can see the fake plants that I just put in there, like I said, an hour or 45 minutes before this started, because I didn't want her like pushing on the glass or whatever to get out, because I can't have her out right now unless I'm holding her, I guess. So I gave her that because I knew that would draw her attention away. And I don't think she's been bugging me once to come out. Like, she had bugging me. What I mean by that is just being on the glass, you know.
Right.
She's still pretty interested in those plants after
She's exploring them.
Yeah, for over an hour. She's like, oh, this is something new. So the point is that you can do that with your snakes on a fairly regular basis, you know. Every time you clean the cage, or once a week, or, you know, whatever. And that gives them a lot of mental enrichment.
Yeah. I think people underestimate how, I don't know if intelligent is the right word, but how, like, yeah, intelligent or smart these animals are. You're saying they're memorizing the layout of the room, they're recognizing new things you're putting in them. And a lot of people, and myself included, for a long time, like, I won't even touch the cage. It is what it is. It's been set up once, and it's going to stay like that. But having it switch over is a very smart idea. Zoo Montana recently put out a video of one of their snakes finding rats in one of the dog puzzles. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you ever considered using cat toys or dog toys for enrichment?
I have for both my black-headed pythons. I've used dog puzzles when they were younger. I don't anymore because they're too big for it now. But
Right.
but I could hide a fuzzy in one of these dog puzzles and close them up. You know, I'll do a couple. I'll do like 3 in this. These are the puzzles where they have to move a button over to open a thing, right? And just put it in there and let them have at it, and they figure it out very quickly. They can tell that there's a smell of a rodent somewhere around there. And what they usually do is they'll start by just trying to bite the button, and they realize that didn't work. And then they got to push it across to get the food. And they quickly realize that biting it doesn't work and pushing it does. And so that's what they do for the rest of them. It's pretty cool. So, and now what I do for them, and the reason I do it for the black-headed pythons and not necessarily the others, is because black-headed pythons will eat carrion in the wild, so they're genetically predisposed to like finding a dead animal and just eating it, right? Whereas a ball python may not, retic may not. So you just put a dead rodent in a puzzle, and they'll find it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the ball python will tell you it's not warm enough.
Yeah, right. But you know what? You mentioned the intelligence thing. I'll tell you another story that shows how intelligent they are. So I do notice that my snakes map out the room when they're in a new room or an area that they're not used to. They'll spend a lot of time slowly tongue flicking on everything, figuring everything out. Then I'll notice that they find a spot to curl up, and they'll hang out there for the afternoon or whatever. And then I put them back in their cage. The next day I open their cage, and they go right to that spot that they were at before. So they always know where they're going. Okay, so
that's very interesting.
This snake, I'll pull her out to show you so you have a visual.
Sure, yeah.
So this is Delilah. Delilah is one of my breeding ball pythons. Hi, Mama. And so Delilah, when she's not
gorgeous.
in breeding season, yeah, she's real pretty. When she's not in breeding season, she free roams a lot, and is very used to it and loves doing it. So I had this was about a year and a half or 2 years ago at my other place. I had a couch that had a hole in the bottom of it. So you know how couches have like a thin piece of cloth, and then it gets into the inner workings if there's a hole in it. So there was a hole in it, and I knew about the hole. And I kept thinking, man, one of these days, one of my snakes is going to find that and get up into the inner workings of the couch, and then I'm going to have to fix it. I should have just fixed it, but I was too lazy, right? Yeah. So finally that happened. Delilah found the hole, got up into the couch. I was like, damn it. So I had to like work to get her out of there and whatever. And so I got her out, and I just put her back in her tub. And she was starting a shed starting to go into shed. And, and I didn't know it at the time, but I checked on her the next day and could tell that she was in shed. So I just closed her tub, and that's where she stayed for about a week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks. Eventually she shed, and the day after she shed, she wanted back out. So it's now been about 2 weeks since she found that hole for the first time. I opened her tub and stood there and watched her come out of her tub, make a beeline across the room, not just to the couch, but to where the hole was. She knew exactly where it was. And I watched her start to go back up in there. So she found it for the first time 2 weeks ago and still knew where she wanted to be and how to get there.
That is fascinating.
So freaking smart. Here, Mama, you know what? Since I woke you up, yeah. So it's really interesting what I noticed from them as far as their memory and what they're, they usually change their favorite spot to be. They'll change it every several months, in the room, I mean, to hang out.
Interesting. Yeah.
But, yeah. It's pretty interesting stuff.
So you do think that in general we're underestimating how smart they are?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, also I target train my snakes, and the speed with which they figure out that target means food is available, and all they have to do is follow the target and touch it with their nose or their tongue. That takes almost no time to teach a snake that.
Yeah. Could you maybe walk us through the process of what you would do to target train one of them?
Yeah. So I take a target. Hang on. So I take a target like this. I have a few targets. This one happens to be my boa's, Handsome Dan.
Handsome Dan, I love it.
Yeah, Handsome Dan is great. So when he sees this target, by the way, he only sees it once every 3 weeks, but he knows exactly what it means, right? So basically what I do for any snake is I figure out what their target's going to be. I have a few different ones, and I start just pairing the food with the target. So what I would do is show him the target, make sure he notices it, make sure he's awake, does some sort of movement or whatever. And I'm going to put her back because she keeps almost falling off my
Yeah.
I'll show her tub, and if she wants to go back, she can go back. If not, I'll let her roam. So anyway,
I have a question on that too afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. So she does want to roam, so I'm just going to let her go on the floor. I will pair the target with food, and then do it again. Do it maybe 4 or 5 different times, and then eventually, sometimes it only takes twice. With some snakes, they'll see that target and they get real excited and they go right up to it. And the idea is that when they start doing that, then I'm going to pull it away a little bit and let them kind of follow it, make sure that they are intentionally following this thing. And then when they touch it with their nose or their tongue, they get their food. Now, oftentimes they get so excited with the target that, when they're in food mode, their brain shuts off. So what we're asking them to do with target training is to still think and perform a function while they're in food mode. And that's really hard for a snake to do. So a lot of times they see that target and they go, oh, food, and they'll strike at the target, which is not good. But at least it confirms, these snakes would never strike at any other inanimate object, so it confirms that they know that target means food. At least. It
means food. Yeah.
So
and what do you think the advantage of target training is? Like, are you doing this as you're only eating when you see the target, so otherwise it's safety for you, or like why do you do it?
Yeah, a couple different reasons. Number one, it's hopefully reduces the strikes. I don't know that it actually does, but what I hope is that they learn that the only time they're getting fed is when they see that target. If they don't see that target, they're not getting fed. However, that doesn't mean that Echo, who is right now sitting there in strike position with her head probably on the other side of that thing, and is just waiting for a bat to fly by. She's just hoping. She's target trained. She only gets fed when she sees her target, but she's still looking for it. And still, if I put my hand in front of her, I would get bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, my point is that's part of it. Is hopefully they learn that the only time they're eating is when they see that target. But it's also mental enrichment for them. It's something that they can do with their brains, and it's not an easy task for them to do. Like I said, they've got to engage their brain while they're in food mode, which is not an easy thing.
No, you're right.
And then it's just a food cue that's like, hey, it's time for food. This is, get ready because it's coming. And I don't have them, there are people like Lori Torini that do all this fancy stuff where they'll have she has her snakes go through mazes and stuff like that and get onto things. She wants to like shift them onto certain things, which I think is great to do, but I don't ever need my snakes to do that. So I generally just use target training as a food cue. Like, hey, you're getting fed now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I have one of my boas is at the glass. Maybe he wants to roam. I don't know, but he's at the glass every time I'm in the room, and before I even like unlock the he's in an exoterra. Before I even unlock the exoterra door to like put the rat in there and feed him, he's already striking. And I wonder if target training would maybe slow that down. Like, you're not seeing the target. I'm not here to feed you. Calm down.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. It might. I have not been able to determine conclusively whether it slows that down or not, because I have some snakes that because I just don't. Part of the problem is I don't know how they would react if I wasn't target training them. You know, like
Right.
I just don't have that comparison really.
So you target train all your snakes?
No.
Okay.
I've target trained a number of ball pythons before. They take to it very easily and they're good at it, but I don't find it necessary to target train them. And it takes longer to feed, right? If you have that additional step.
Yes.
So I don't usually feed all on the same day, but oftentimes I'll land on a day where I'm feeding 20 snakes, and it is easier to just open a cage and throw some food in there. But I do target train the ones that potentially could just strike at any heat signature, for one thing. And I don't have any ball pythons that necessarily do that. I mean, they would, like during feeding time when there's rat smell in the room, then I'm careful about it. But you know, just in the middle of the day, I don't have any ball pythons where I open their cage and they're going to strike at me. But that could happen easily with a retic. It could happen easily with a black-headed python. You know, I've got a carpet python and a Brettles python in these cages. They're still little, but they're not going to be for long. So they're target trained, and you know, you just want to get them used to their targets. The one exception, the one snake that absolutely doesn't need to be target trained, but I just wanted to see how her brain worked, is my pygmy python. Smallest python in the world. If she ever bites me, it's probably won't even break my skin, so it doesn't matter. But she's so good at target training. Like, she's the best one in the room. She took to it so fast, and she never strikes at the target. She always does it right. When she sees, she has a target similar to this, but it's about 20 times smaller. A little tiny green thing. When she sees that, she knows it means food. She comes right out of her hide, touches it with her nose, gets her food, does it perfect every time. It's cool.
And do you think that correlates with intelligence? Like, the easier they are to target train, maybe the smarter the species is?
You know, it's tough to say, because I love how intelligent they are. I love how easily trainable they are and stuff like that. But, you know, we can only measure intelligence based on our experience as humans, right? So there might be other ways to measure intelligence that we just can't even see, because we're so far from what a reptile is, and especially from what a snake is, that we can only go like, well, hey, when I train them to do this thing that me as a human wants them to do, and they can do it, that's pretty smart. And it is. But so my whole point is that a snake that's harder to train, does that mean that they're less intelligent? I don't know. I can't say that. But I can say that it's real impressive when you show them a target a few times and all of a sudden they know what it means, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And sorry, you said pygmy python. Is that anthills python, Antaresia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you keep any other Antaresia species?
No, just her. I would like to get a male, because I do want to breed her, because there's not many people who breed pygmy pythons, and I'd like to do it. But yeah, she's awesome. Little tiny.
Yeah.
I'd pull her out, but she's deep in shed right now.
Yeah.
But you know, just like I've seen photos of people who have their little pygmy python on a clutch of eggs in the palm of their hand. Like, they're just sitting right there on a clutch of eggs.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I've gotten into Antaresia recently. I have a pair of children eye, and I have a baby spotted. But I think having the pygmy, the anthills would be even cool. Like, they're even smaller. So I think in general people need to be keeping smaller snakes too. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really cool giant snakes, and a lot of people can pull it off. But I also have seen a lot of situations where, like, they don't have the ability to free roam their retics, and the retics are stuck in small cages
I agree.
always, or so it's cool to have the variety, or inform people that there are other options other than just ball pythons, retics, carpets, whatever, blah blah blah. And I think the Antaresia, it fits that category so perfectly.
For sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
So I
great.
don't want to keep. I don't mean to keep jumping back to the free roaming thing, but I have one more question about it,
Sure.
and we can jump off the topic. But so earlier you said, I'll give Delilah the option of whether she wants to go back or whether she wants to free roam.
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever a time where they're free roaming and do they know where their homes are? Do they know where their cages are? Do they ever make an effort to go home? Or once they're out, and you have to kind of move them back?
Yeah. So I did put her back. I mindlessly put Delilah back.
Okay, yeah.
I just had to make sure because closer to. Yeah. So the retics know where they live, and I love when they decide to go back to their cage. Like I'll come into the room and I'll be like, "Where'd Stella go?" And I'll look all around for her. I'm like, "Geez, where is she?" And then I realize that she's back in her cage. She put herself back, which is great. It's only happened once with my ball pythons, and it was with Damara. She's my biggest girl. She had just laid eggs, and I pulled the eggs, put them in the incubator, washed her off, and I was gonna clean her tub out and give her fresh stuff and whatever. So I just put her on the couch while I did that and let her go where she wanted to go, and I did all that and then put the tub back in. And then I just watched her for a little bit, and she crawled up on the couch and onto the top of the rack and down back into her tub.
Wow.
And I assume it's because she wanted to curl up on eggs, even though we say that when we wash them off and everything, it removes the scent of the eggs and it takes the snake out of mama mode. But I find that it still takes a couple days for them to get out of that instinct. So she easily found her way back to where she wanted to be, but that was a special circumstance, So yeah. I haven't had any other ball pythons just go back to their home. Ball pythons find a spot to curl up and they're happy there for days. I mean, I don't leave them out for days, but they're happy to do that. I have accidentally let snakes out overnight, and they're always right where they were when I last saw them the day before.
Really,
that's happened a few times. And same with Handsome Dan, my boa. I wouldn't say that this is a trait for boas in general, because every snake is different. But with Handsome Dan, if he's out free roaming, he finds the spot where he wants to be, and then he's there forever. And so fairly recently, this happened where I forgot that he was out. My thing is, I always leave their cage open if they're, or either open or at least totally unlocked. And right. I had without thinking just closed his cage and locked it real quick during the day sometime. And then I went to an overnight event, and I came back at like 3:00 in the afternoon, and I noticed that Handsome Dan was in this hide that I'm pointing to right there up on top of the cage, which is where he was at like 11:00 in the morning when I saw him last.
So he hadn't moved at all?
Not at all. For over 24 hours, he was in that. I mean, who knows? Maybe he came out, roamed around, and went back to that same hide. But my guess is, knowing that guy, he didn't move at all.
That's interesting. I would have expected the nighttime. I assume your lights are on timers and everything. Like, I would expect that once it got dark, they would become more active, but maybe not. Yeah.
He could have, because he does sometimes. He's active at night, but he's also one that he's not very active at all. But when he is active, it's he could be awake and moving around in the middle of the day a little bit. He does it a little bit at night. I mean, I never know what he's doing when I'm sleeping, but I do check on them. When I'm out of town, I have cameras on them all. So It's really interesting to see what their behavior is when I'm not in the room, because it's different. And I also check on them more like in the middle of the night. If I'm awake, I'll grab my phone and check the cameras real quick and see what they're up to. He's usually asleep.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. What's the most amount of snakes? I said it was the last one, but one more, and then
Yeah.
What's the most amount of snakes you've had out at one time?
I've probably had 6 or 8 out at once before,
Wow.
which is not really that big of a deal because it'll be like the 2 retics are in my bedroom. Handsome Dan is up here,
Okay.
and then I've got a bunch of female ball pythons free roaming. There are times during the year where I have more ball pythons free roaming because, like right now, they're all in breeding season. So I got a bunch of breeding mamas sitting on nests. They're not coming out free roaming at this time of the year because they just
Yeah.
pretty much want to be on their nest. And actually, that's not true because I did just post a reel talking about this is also really interesting behavior that I think a lot of breeders don't know about because they're not letting their snakes out. But I find that a couple weeks before a snake is going to lay eggs, they get real antsy. And they all of a sudden, after months of just sitting there in the back of their tub, they want to move. So when I see them at the front of their tub, I open it and I let them out to free roam. So I have 2 snakes, Lydia and Anya, who both, let me just see if they're, who both each day have wanted to come out and free roam. And I just posted a video where they were out together exploring a little bit. No, they're both on their nests. But I think what that has to do with is moving eggs around in their body. This is just my guess. But I think that also their free roaming when they're in this state is they want to climb. They want to do all sorts of crazy daredevil climbing, which I don't want them to do. They got eggs, right? But I think that climbing helps them move eggs around and get them ready to lay. And almost all my snakes do that. Almost all my females, about 2 weeks before they lay, they start wanting to come out. So
Very interesting. Yeah. Or maybe they're uncomfortable and the movement kind of helps comfort or reduce the tension a little bit or something. That's
Sure.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of behaviors we're missing by not allowing these kinds of behaviors.
Yeah. Here's Lydia right now coming out since I opened her tub.
And she'll just come out.
Yeah, she'll once she's out, I'll pick her up. But she's lovely and she knows the room very well. She's one of my most. I was saying something the other day. Maybe it was during one of my live streams that as a fully adult, like 3,000 gram ball python, she'll crawl out onto me into my arms. Whereas like for baby snakes, the goal is to get them to crawl out onto my hand, right? But once they get bigger, I don't care if they crawl out on me or not. But if I'm sitting there and I open her tub, she crawls right onto my lap and does her thing.
Do you think they recognize you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the way I know that, the reason I say for sure is because if I hand Lydia to you, she'll do the baby thing where when a mother hands the baby off to a stranger, they reach for. So I have a series on my channel where it's called Introducing People to Snakes Who Are Afraid of Snakes. So I bring in a friend who is afraid of snakes and I try to help them get over their fear. And so usually pretty quickly I get them holding snakes, right? And so you can see this in my videos where I do that, where I hand someone a snake and you can see that snake immediately trying to come back to me. Their preference is that they get to go off on their own, right? But if their choice is between the monkey that they know and the monkey that I just handed them to, they want to hang out with this monkey. And then they might try to go off on their own but their goal now is to just get back to me because they know me.
Yeah, a recognizable thing. That's super interesting. And by the way, you've mentioned videos on your channel. Like all of those videos that he mentioned will be in the description. So make sure you go check them out. Go check out.
That's a lot of videos for you to find.
I'll find them. And if I missed one, they're on the channel, so go find them. But they'll all be there. Do you ever, you're sitting watching TV? Do you ever have like a snake in your lap or snake? Do you hang out with them just in general?
Yeah, the ones that will. There's not. We always talk about ball pythons will curl up on your lap while you're watching a movie. Yeah. Most of them will not. Most of them will want to go off on their own, But like Lydia here, she's free to do whatever she wants, and she's not quickly leaving. At least I have another one, Damara, who is kind of the one that's my go-to movie watching snake because she will curl up on my lap and just fall asleep.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I have like my retics will never curl up on my lap. But the cool thing that they do is they like to check in on me. So if I'm sitting on the couch, like right now, Stella is sleeping. She's in a dish right now. That's kind of her favorite spot in this room, and she's sleeping. She'll wake up and yeah, I'll show you in a second. I'll bring it over. But she'll wake up and see me sitting on the couch, and she'll come over, and I won't know. It'll startle me because I won't know she's coming over, right? Because they're ninjas, and she'll just crawl across my shoulders or across my lap to see what I'm up to, and then hang out for a second, and then they're gone. And I try whenever they do that, I try not to like pick them up or restrain them or make them do anything because I want to encourage that behavior. I don't want them to be annoyed with me that I picked them up, So I just
stop
let them.
them.
Yeah. So that's a cool thing that they do. But this one will occasionally sit on my lap and hang out for a while.
Yeah, it's funny because you're right. It's one of the common things that's said about ball pythons. Like, people at Expo will be like, "Oh, if you want a snake to just curl up on your lap and sit there, ball pythons are the one." But none of my snakes, none of my ball python, none of my snakes at all will sit for even a second. They're always on the move if they're out.
Yeah, I mean, I think with ball pythons, I think maybe it's an exaggeration of something that is actually real, which is if you want to be able to sit there and watch a movie and kind of manage your snake slowly, hand over hand, you can do that easily. If you have a rat snake, that rat snake's going to be all over the place, right? And it's going to be this frantic thing of trying to keep the snake with you. And but with a ball python, you can watch a movie and just slowly go hand over hand, and it's not going to. You don't have to focus on the snake. The other thing is with a lot of retics, you got to focus on what they're doing, and like with Echo, I definitely have to focus on what she's doing because she could slip into food mode and turn around and bite me. Stella, my other retic, would never do that. So I can mindlessly manage her, but she's also way faster. So it's not really mindless. I'm still having to.
You're not focused on the movie. You're focused on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you've mentioned a lot of really cool species. What else are you, other than the ones we've already mentioned? What else are you working with?
We may have already talked about it. I've got a bunch of ball pythons. I have a carpet python, a Brettles, a couple of black-headed pythons, a boa. Oh, I have a scrub python.
Cool.
My scrub python's the best. He's sitting right now.
Free roam?
No, because he's tiny. And he's new.
Okay.
He's a yearling and he's new. But man, what a cool snake that is. He came from Paul Duran, who bred a couple of southern scrub pythons and then let the mother maternally incubate. Hang on, I want to save Lydia real quick. She's about to fall off the side of the couch.
Yeah, go for it. No worries.
I don't mind under normal circumstances if a snake's belly flops onto the floor, but I kind of don't want the gravity moments to do that.
Yes, 100%.
So anyway, Paul let this female maternally incubate, which hasn't really been done before.
Cool.
And then he let the babies stay with the mother until they left the nest, which was 3 days. Put cameras in there. Watched how the mama managed the snakes, which is fascinating. That's in a video that I recently put out about this snake. I've got clips of the mama on the nest. She's on these eggs, and you got little heads poking out of each egg, right? And as soon as a baby tries to leave an egg, she aggressively takes a coil and goes bam, and hits the baby back down into the egg. Like it's not time to leave the egg yet.
Interesting.
Which is really fascinating. I don't think anybody's seen that before. Nobody's had a camera in an egg box to watch that kind of behavior. And okay, Lydia's good. So then he split up the clutch between 2 or 3 big bioactive cages, and they all hung out together basically for their first 8 months in these big bioactives. And he did choice-based handling with them, so they're all crawl out on your hand socialized, except for one. There was one that they named Scoville, who hates everything and wants to bite everybody. But that's normal snake behavior, right? That's normal scrub python. Scoville is a regular scrub python. All these other ones from that clutch are completely different than what we're used to with scrub pythons. So Douglas
Fascinating.
is Douglas is mine, which is back there in that cage. He's great.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. And you're keeping a lot of really cool things. I believe you have a house snake as well. I think.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah. I
mentioned,
forgot
yeah.
the house snake.
Yeah.
I've got a little house snake that Garrett Hartle just gave me this house snake in the last time he was here. He was like, "Why don't you just take one? Just take one and see what you think about it." You know,
Cool.
because he knows
Yeah.
that it'll be on my channel and it'll help his house snake sales.
That's hilarious. So he gave Adam Wickens a bunch of house snakes, and
Yeah,
Adam. Well, last time I went to Adam's house, he was like, "Why don't you just take two?"
yeah,
So
yeah,
I have some house snakes now too. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Adam got a great deal on a pile of house snakes, including a bunch of free ones. And I just, I'm not trying to breed house snakes. I think just the one is fine. I have him in a little 18 by 18 bioactive cage,
That's
and
cool.
he's cool. A little tiny, cute little snake.
Yeah. Are you breeding anything other than the ball pythons?
Not right now. I will pair up my black-headed pythons next year,
Yeah.
or next season. And hang on,
She's at the window again.
Maya's at the window now.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I'll pair them up, and then I believe I'm going to try to breed Echo, my super dwarf, next season. Also, I'm doing a breeding loan with Garrett.
Cool.
He's gonna send me a mail. So
How far are you from Garrett?
he's in Pittsburgh. I'm in Los Angeles. So
Not close.
that snake will go on an airplane.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Mail. Yeah.
That's very cool. What are the cages behind those black box cages?
These are black box cages. Yeah, the Black Box is a sponsor of my channel, but
Cool.
I've had Black Box since before they were a sponsor, and I just loved their cages and I loved their customer service. So I've got a good relationship with them, and
Yeah.
I
And
like them a lot.
they look awesome. Like the setup you have behind you, for whoever's listening, like pop into the YouTube channel and take a look at it. The aesthetics of all of them kind of lined up like that. It's a really good look.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy with them. Those are all 5-foot cages. Not all of them. The ones all the way over here are 3-foot long cages.
Cool.
And they're kind of on I've got these on a what do you call it, like a frame that a friend of mine built that's on a steel frame. Basically,
Right.
just because with those cages, if we had a big earthquake, they're more likely to topple because they're shorter cages, they're smaller. So I've got them on a frame, but yeah, I like how the whole thing looks. Eventually, I'll add another 5-foot cage on top of this one, and I'll have it'll ruin the aesthetic on top here. But
Yeah, you won't be able to see the green room pythons sign.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
It's
That's
okay though.
right.
What's going to happen? I've got my Brettles python and my carpet python in these 3-foot cages because they're just yearlings. They're tiny, but they're going to outgrow those.
Yeah.
And I have a cage for one ready to go, and then I'll need another cage up here for them.
That makes sense. Do you and since they're stacked like that, how are you heating them? I think you mentioned radiant heat panels. Is that all of them heated that way?
Yeah, they're all on radiant heat panels, and that which works for a longer cage like that. I don't think I have radiant heat panels in the 3-foot cages, and if I were to do it over again, I might do I might do a lamp type
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean not a lighted heat source necessarily, but deep heat projector or something like that. And the only reason is that those heat panels tend in a smaller cage, like a 3-foot long cage, it tends to heat the whole cage.
Cool.
Versus when it's 5 or 6 feet long, it heats that end, and then your other end stays.
Fascinating. So. That's really cool. Yeah, I've never tried the radiant heat panels, but I think I want to give them a try. I'm slowly moving towards heating. So I have 2 reptile rooms. I'm sort of moving to one of them is completely the entire room is heated.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm seeing some interesting behaviors. I think I like that a lot. But the problem with that is you go into the room and you're like, I can only be in here for like 10, 15 minutes tops. And then you need to get out because it's way too hot.
So you have them on what, an ambient of like 85?
Yeah. I think that's, I have it in degrees, but I think that's, hold on.
Oh, because you're in Canada, right?
Oh yeah, but even that, yeah, it's at 86 is what the room sits at. Yeah, so like
Okay.
30 degrees ish. Yeah, I'm in Canada, but even here in Canada, we still all the reptile people still use Fahrenheit for
Oh, really?
temperatures, and I'm just the weird one that sticks to Celsius for some reason. So I'll read a care sheet and it's in Fahrenheit, and then I'll convert it over to Celsius, and all my heat guns are in Celsius, and then I'll have to like when I'm doing my research or if I'm making like doing a video or something, I'll have to put it in Fahrenheit, convert it over. I should probably just make the switch, but it's easier this way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they're sitting at an ambient of 86, and it's weird, but they almost use more of their enclosures this way. Like they're
Uh-huh.
not. I feel like the snakes that are downstairs that are on heat lamps, which I was on heat pads and I converted everything to heat lamps, and I like that a lot more. But
Hmm.
the heated room, they sorry, with the heat lamps, you feel like, or I feel like they're either sitting under the heat lamp or they're sitting on the height furthest away from the heat lamp. But with
Right.
the ambient temperature, they're kind of using the entire enclosure.
Yeah, they
I
make
don't know.
their choice based on other reasons.
Right.
You know,
Not, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
not thermoregulation necessarily. Yeah, I think I was just saying this last night in a live stream that there are a lot of people, especially that live in tropical environments, that don't use heat. You know, if you're like I'm thinking of like Rob Barraclaw, who at Royal Balls, he lives in Malaysia,
Right.
and so he doesn't need heat. He just has an ambient, and
Opens the
his snakes
window.
do great. What's that?
He just opens the window.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just hot there. Miserable for humans, but perfect for these snakes, you know.
Right. Yeah. That's very interesting. It is cool to see the different behaviors when you play with different heat sources and different lighting and different all of that. Do you have UVB on them in there, or is that just LEDs?
I have most of these are just LEDs. I mean, all of these that you see are LEDs. There's
Yeah.
UV in this. Let's see, this cage down here has UV. That doesn't. That's a plant light. And then my pygmy python has UV. And I did it as an experiment to see if I noticed anything. And so far, I've not noticed anything with
Yeah.
UV.
So
Um,
yeah, I agree. I'm playing with similar things. So I have a few of my snakes on UV and a few that aren't, and I'm also not seeing anything. No change in behavior. I'm not seeing change in the way they eat or the look of them or anything. So I don't really. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
yeah, yeah. I always tell people it's not going to hurt them. You
Yeah.
know, you use a shade dweller for pythons, but it's not going to hurt them. But I don't know how much it benefits them.
Right. Yeah. Especially most of them are nocturnal species, and they're getting full prey. They're eating an entire. You know, what I mean, with lizards, it's a little bit different because they're getting insects, and if you're not gut loading the insects properly, and if you're not dusting them properly, it could lead to problems very quickly. But with snakes, they're getting a full rat or a full chick or whatever. They're getting all
And
the
really, I tell you what, this argument that people have over lighting and what kind of lighting and what kind of heat sources and stuff like that, I don't think is nearly as important as nutrition is.
right.
And so if you want to argue over like the health of your snakes, my argument would be, and I don't do this, but my argument would be raise your own rodents and gut load them with the best possible thing so
Right.
that you're feeding your snake proper nutrition. Forget the lighting and all this stuff that people are arguing over. Well, does it help? We don't know. There's never been science done on it. We're not sure. It seems like here's a couple of anecdotal reports of this, and here's anecdotal reports of that. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that providing your snake with a heat gradient is really important. Um, and I think that there are more beneficial sources of heat than others. I think there are certain overhead sources of heat that are much better than like a heat mat.
Yeah.
But
I would agree with that. Yeah.
if we're talking about the health of our animals, I think the big argument, the thing that everybody should come down on me on, is that I don't raise my own rodents and gut load them, and I'm not going to. I get my
Right.
rodents in labs. They're healthy. It works great, and they're fine. But someone that wanted to be what's the word that I'm thinking of? You
Perfect
know how
keeper.
people like, yeah, they like to feel like they're doing real good and everybody else sucks, and they want to
Yes.
have the people that raise their own rodents and gut load them. They can be like that, and because that would be really more beneficial than all this stuff.
Yeah, I agree, and especially with lighting, like you said, doing it wrong could cause more harm than good. Whereas there is no bad from supplementing your rodents correctly. But I would agree with you. There's no way I'm doing it either. There's no way I'm raising rats or mice or anything like that. I don't think I could see myself doing that unless I had
one thing I love about keeping snakes is that I have technically about 40 snakes in this room with the babies that I have,
cool,
but 31 or so that are mine. If a blind person walked in this room, they would not be able to tell that I have animals because
smell wise.
Yeah, because I keep my cages clean, and snakes don't have fur. They don't have. Oh, that's Maya.
Maya, the plant. I saw that. Yeah. Cool.
I've got. Lydia just crawled under that cage, so I'm gonna have to maybe go save her, see where she's at. I just moved this cage right here, or this one right here, just moved over here, so I got to see.
She's exploring
with it. Yeah. What was my point? What was I saying?
It's you keep them clean, and there's no fur.
Yeah. So the whole point is, if I was raising rodents, it would absolutely reek in here. Yes. It would smell so bad. I don't want to deal with that smell. Yes. I like to know, like if I wake up in the morning and and there's any little whiff of something, I know that one of my snakes has a big mess in their cage. And as soon as I open that cage, I'm going to really smell it. But
it's you. Yeah.
But if I smell any animal smell at all, feces type smell, that means that I got a real problem in one of my cages. Otherwise, there's nothing,
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, this was absolutely fascinating episode. Maybe we'll leave it at this. Do you think more people need to be doing more in terms of enrichment and, treating their snakes differently in terms of intelligence in the hobby in general?
I do, but I want to say it with this caveat. I don't want people to think that we're coming down on them, or that I'm coming down on them especially for not doing this crazy free roaming that I do. That I don't think that's expected. But I will say this. If you're keeping your snakes, your baby snake, in a little tub, all you got to do is take a toilet paper roll that you were going to throw away anyway and just toss it in there. It gives them a thing. It gives them something to check out. If you just bought a couple of flashlights on Amazon, little handheld flashlights, take the cardboard box and instead of throwing it away, put it in with a baby snake. Right. And let them use it until they pee on it, then throw it away. So just little things like that. That's something that everybody can do. And then you're changing out enrichment in a shoebox tub for a brand new baby snake. They're being allowed to check something out that's new and get their brain wrapped around the fact that sometimes they'll encounter something new and it doesn't mean it's dangerous. And it might be something they can hide in, So little things like that. I'm not someone who advocates like, hey, throw away all your racks and get giant cages and you got to change everything. It's not like that. It's give them little. They just need, do a little bit extra. Whatever you can do that makes you feel a little bit better about keeping is all we need to do. And incremental changes is really good. Yeah, and I'm always trying to do that with mine. So.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job at it. Like even like you were saying, just giving Maya the fake plant before starting. I've been watching her the entire episode. She's still exploring it right now. Yeah. So it's like it really shows how much a small change makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that is awesome. Bob, thank you very, very, very much for coming on. This was fascinating. I would love to dive deeper at some point. Maybe we could do another episode on the intelligence of snakes or something, but thank you very much for coming on. Can you let everybody know? Me, yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure. Like I said, all the links to the videos will be in the description, but in general, where can people find you?
Green Room Pythons.
On everything.
on everything. Just look up Green Room Pythons, you'll find it. But the main content is on YouTube, but I've got some shorts on Instagram and TikTok, stuff like that too.
Awesome. Links in the description as well. Once again, Bob, thank you very much. Everyone else, thank you very much for listening. Go do something to enrich your snake somehow, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks, Fadi.